2015. And I will start with the roll call. Aurora Villon present. Jose Lara.
Present.
Alfred Renteria.
Here.
Rencho Canchola.
Here.
Debbie Alvidres. Members of the Administrative Cabinet, Mark Galindo.
Here.
Ruben Frutos.
Here.
If you can join me with doing the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? Let's take a vote. Mr. Renteria?
Yes.
Mr. Lara?
Yes.
Ms. Canchola?
Yes.
Mrs. Alvidres? Villon, yes. 5-0 to approve the agenda as presented. We're going to move on to public comments. We have a young man here, welcome.
Thank you.
And you are with?
Rio Hondo College, I'm recording for a class.
Oh, you're with the Paisano? Well, what is your name?
Randy Ramirez?
Welcome, Randy.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have any public comments. We'll move on to item number 5. New business, Division of Business Services. Item 5A1, approve selection of District Bond Counsel. You have the information right in front of you. Do I have a motion to approve the firm that you have in front of you?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
Yes, question with regard, I'm listening to Frutos. With regards to the bond, I understand that when we go up for a new bond, that it may not be an extension of the current bond that we currently have to remove that ceiling that we have, that cap. But also, this would be a new bond, leaving EE in place. But my question was to you, that EE bond is still an active bond, so if we sell the new bond, what happens to that old bond? Does it, if the values of the properties exceed, and we then tap into that one? So simultaneously, we have two bonds going.
Before I answer that, I just wanted to clarify one thing too. That's one of the reasons that we would want to make sure we're having very good conversations with our fiscal advisor once we get that contract in place to help us understand what are the different ways or options we have as a district to be able to do that. To what degree do we go after a new bond? To what degree do we go after the currently 40 million we have left in EE, correct? Or authority in EE? What's the best way to go? So I just wanted to clarify that because we don't know which way we would go right now. We would really need some more advice. What's the best way to do that? But given Mr. Renteria's question, Mr. Frutos?
Absolutely, and both of you said exactly what can happen. If you remember, we created a bifurcation of two potential approaches. Right now, the district has about $14 million in active authority, which means what we're building, and up to $40 million in potential bond authority. But the language of the bond that was passed taps us at $60 per 100,000 evaluation. So we're limited with that. If we pursue a new bond based on our increased valuation over time, that might take us on a different route that still leaves this available, but until that property value goes up, we are maxed out because we limit ourselves at $60 per 100,000. So with the financial advisor, we're going to evaluate both the potential tapping, as you called it, of the 40 million, or going in a new route, which would be a new bond, and they would be totally different bond issuances.
But if we then go to the, if we go with a new bond, I mean, hypothetically, if we go with a new bond and the community is asked to pony up, basically, okay, what happens to that old bond? Does it cap itself out, or do we kill it? I mean, because I myself as a taxpayer, I wouldn't want both of them active, because if I'm going to vote for one bond, thinking, okay, I know what the potential is, but then when the rest of the series are sold on EE, I'm going to hit again because the language in there allows a certain dollar amount per $100,000 value.
And that's why it's so important that we conduct the local analysis, what they call the surveys, because the financial advisor and the team will look at the community and see what is able to be authorized as issuance. If, for example, the community were to say, we don't want to increase the taxation, one option could be that the $40 million authority gets bundled into the new authority. And now it's just a continuance of that. So what really would be is like refinancing a home. Go over more time, but still at 60, which right now we have no authority to do. But the team will have to analyze that and then survey the community, see what's tolerable, and that's what becomes an issuance that comes to the board.
Mr. Lara?
I mean, it just seems to me that because of that capping, it limits us to really be making the improvements that our schools need, right? So I mean, I think this is good because it allows us to explore the idea without making a final decision if this is the way we're going to go. Because the reality is that, you know, our buildings are crumbling. There is a major need for major upgrades in our district. There's no what's it called? There's no question about that. The question is, how do we go about that so, you know, concerns of taxpayers are addressed, and the needs of the students are met. I mean, you don't get to second to none by not investing in your schools. I know in other school districts, especially affluent school districts, they have no problem investing in their schools. They not only pay more in taxes, but they are more than willing to host fundraisers where they bring in an extra $2-3 million just on, fundraisers they have. And I know that's not where we're at. But if we want to be there, if we want to be a community that really focuses on an education, and that's where the focal point's going to be, we're going to have to explore all options, whether it is liquidating one bond or the other, or lifting caps up, or being creative in order to make our buildings reflect what we have inside of them, which is the great students and teaching.
Any other comments?
Just another clarification, I want to make sure. So, Mr. Frutos, that $40 million authority, could at some point also the board say, you know what, we just want to wipe that out and not even have access to that? Could the board do that also, or how?
They could do a rescinding, which is an official action of the board, to say that they suspend the ability to, and that would go in conjunction with that human right finance.
Okay.
Those were all the avenues that we explored.
So I just want to make sure, because that's also a possibility to kind of what the board would like to do.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes, I have an answer. And you may have answered this question that Mr. Rancheria asked, but his question had to do with how do we control that? You said that we're going to have to make sure that it doesn't happen with regards to the expenditure or the bond being outside or growing larger than for our people, for our when I say people, our community members that own homes and businesses. Is that going to be written in the contract? Did you say it would be written in the contract? Because then, if we're going to rely on our CBO to monitor that, you're not going to be here for the lifetime of the bond or the project. I like to think you would be, but I mean, we're looking at 20 years, 30 years. So, is there any way we can have it actually, the verbiage in the contract so that it doesn't, so that if the company chooses to go outside of the parameters of the contract, then they'll be held responsible for anything they've done? Because a lot of times the district loses track of all of these different bonds and the different companies that are coming in and refinancing. And so I want to know if there's something that we can write in the contract that would help and put the onus on them, on the companies that we hire, to say, oh, our contract says we need to get board approval, or we need to notify the board at the very least that this is an option that we're going to do, versus just doing it and then telling us 6 months later, oh, well, we've been doing it for 6 months and we were supposed to take it to the board and we didn't do that. So did you answer that, or if you did already, can you repeat it so that I can understand? Is there something we can put in the contract?
Actually, it wouldn't go in the bond council contract. It would go, there's a specific document that you're actually mentioning called an indenture document. When you issue the bonds before, if you open what is called a financial statement, right in there it says the board has only authorized up to a certain amount. Now what our colleagues from Colwell Flores did before is they created bonds that were approved by the board, but the interest rate was so high that it topped us against the 60. That is a piece that the financial advisor is to provide. created an interest rate that basically caps our ceiling. That's the piece that I think in the future we need to control. And it really will be up to the board and the financial advisor and the CDO to issue statements that say, what is the cost of interest of this borrowing that we're doing? Very similar to when you get your mortgage. If you're refining at 8% versus 4%, which one would you take? It's exactly the same thing. A little more complicated of an instrument. So it doesn't go in a contract, but it goes in both of what's called the face documents or indenture documents of every issuance that you do. And right now, the ones we have are right there. If you remember when I first started, I gave Mr. Galindo an analysis of all our caps. They're all at 8%, 7.65, 7. That is not good business for us in the future, but you cannot put it in a contract because interest float. So what we need to make sure is when we issue something that we're mindful of what the interest rate will do to our authority, because then we will be in the same situation that we are right now, where we have authority for issuance, but no ability to issue. So you're right, it's just on a different document.
And so, would that document come before the board to review?
Absolutely. We cannot issue without board authority. As a matter of fact, I have the documents that the boards authorize all the caps. And that's the piece where a good financial advisor should have said, are you guys sure you want to borrow at 8%?
Okay, but these bond counsel services are not the financial.
That's correct. These
Something
people need to
different.
make sure that the indenture documents are legal. The financial advisor and the CBO should be advising the board of, is this a good borrowing instrument? And in my estimation, the ones that we did recently were probably for a great need, but it could have been, probably developed in a little bit of a different way.
Right, and I guess what I'm trying to get at, Mr. Fritos, is that how do we protect the board to, one, ensure that the board not just knows, but understands what they're voting on or what they're approving or not going to approve? And two, is there some way we can document or track that the board knows? So then this way, we don't just leave it up to the chief business officer. And I by no means am implying you, but we have had issues with the prior CBOs. And obviously, we had financed some of these bonds at a very high rate, so we don't want to do that again. So I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that we, the district, can cause or create a protocol that would ensure that the board is aware of the interest rates as they move up and down. So it's pointed out to us versus, don't worry, you're putting little heads off over this. We have it covered, when in fact we do not have it covered. What would you suggest?
My recommendation is before every issuance, the board should get a study session or a presentation by the financial team of what the consequence of an issuance. It gives the challenge with doing something. Let's just say, because this has happened to me before when I was with the Department of Education, districts that got in trouble tried to create what was called a set limit of interest for issuance. So let's say this board said, we will never issue a bond above 6%. A new board can override that in one action. So it really is difficult because we cannot prevent boards from the future from taking action. The most prudent thing is to document what we're doing. And I couldn't find anywhere that boards have presentations by the CBO saying, this is the curve, and I presented it. Here's the ceiling of the max of the district, and the curve is taking us there. That presentation should be done by the CBO and the financial advisor prior to any issuance. And then the board is informed and can say, we need this, let's get it done anyway, which sometimes you do, or let's go. But the board has authority before any issuance.
You might also want to share, Mr. Frutos, what the wording that we have changed in all of the contracts, where before the people we were hiring would report to you or to the superintendent. We have included the board that no action will be taken without the knowledge of the board in every single contract we have. And we changed the wording to reflect that.
Did we get copies of that by any chance? Of the draft or of the language? Did we, the entire board, get copies of that?
Well,
In every agreement we've done where we've added it, you've seen it.
Okay, but it
Which means that
wasn't pointed out to us, so
Correct.
this was something that was done.
within the ad hoc committee,
Okay.
it was felt, hey, let's make sure we add the board to that. And so I think what we're trying to do is for every major contract like that, we're adding that language. So for instance, that language would be added to the
Bond council.
right?
Absolutely.
So today, all we're asking the board is, we're recommending approval of this, but we still don't have the agreement with the bond council, and in the bond council agreement, you would see the bond language in there. And maybe what we can do is, maybe for future ones, if it's possible, we identify that, highlight it or something. That way you can begin seeing where it should come up in relation to the agreement.
Yes, I like to see where it would be in the contracts, so that I can go right to it on all the contracts.
Right.
I don't know what I'm looking for, and I appreciate you reporting it to us today, because had we not gone over this, some of us would not have even known that this was done by the ad hoc committee. And it's very important that we know what happens by the ad hoc committee, because this is important, and we've already taken care of it, but we need to know that. I think.
Okay, let's move on. Let's take a vote. So there's a motion, there's a second. Mr. Renteria?
Yes.
Mr. Lara?
Yes.
Ms. Ochoa?
Yes.
Mrs. Alvidrez? Beyond yes. 5-0 to approve the company for the law firm for bond counsel. At this point, we will adjourn to closed session. And we are waiting, Mr. Galindo, we will be meeting in closed session and we will call you eventually.
So you need to sit down.
Yes.